Okay, this is my response, my reading response for the Franklin article called Tourism and Introduction. Franklin states in the introduction passage of this book that the theories that exist in the study of tourism are not substantial and are inadequate, and therefore calls for a new approach and new sets of theories that will assist in creating new theoretical perspectives to the ever-changing social constructs of the modern age. Franklin's main argument is that tourism is an essential component of modern identity development rather than something perceived as superficial that occurs on the social border. Franklin argued that although tourism industry continues to constantly grow, there are many disadvantages and negative outcomes of taking trips from exposure to gems, from inadequate air supply on aeroplanes to uncomfortable sleeping accommodations experienced by backpackers. So it also contributes to the question of why, if tourism can sometimes be uncomfortable, why do people still engage in it? Franklin argued that tourism was created out of a modernized society due to the fact that there's a quest to gain additional general knowledge about the outside world beyond our locality. Franklin argued that initially societies were not opening to welcoming strangers, and anything that was not familiar, anything that was unknown, was termed as foreign to the people of that locality or society. The sense of fear was heightened and was defined as the other. However, this did not stop people from this society traveling out to examine other people and their ways of living. With the quest for more knowledge and applying tourism as the basis of exploring and creating new adventures, societies became connected due to universal discourses. Franklin argued that tourism is a neglected aspect of globalization, and he gives us examples of how people do not go out physically to participate in tourism, but rather tourism comes to them. They can be at home or within their society or their area and experience tourism. For example, living in metropolitan cities such as London and New York, you are bound to come across people from different cultures and social economic classes. He gave us examples such as ethnic restaurants, such as Thai restaurants, being seen existing in the UK or in Australia, and that people can make and that also we don't have to physically go out to experience tourism. We can also stay at home and experience tourism. Even he used the internet as well as an example of tourism. When we browse on websites, you see site, the word site, SITE. You see a menu of things that we want to participate in based on the individual's choices. So he was saying that we do not have to leave wherever we are to go and experience tourism. Franklin also found that tourism was for a while tourism was accessible to the upper class in the society, the Western upper class in the society, and later on, due to modernity, the tourism became accessible to people of different socio-economic class, and so the upper class sometimes view tourism, because because tourism is not accessible to everybody that has from different socio-economic class. Because of this, the upper class sometimes tend to scorn on tourism, as is no longer accessible to a certain group of people. And that he stated from the socio-economic, from people, and he stated that people from different socio-economic classes can therefore be accessible to tourism and new experiences. Franklin also he met in the book, he mentioned that Thomas Cook is like the founder of modern tourism, and he gives us examples of how Cook foresaw tourism in the future. And for Franklin, he says that Thomas wanted to make a way, Thomas wanted to create a way that would make tourism accessible to people of different socio-economic class and different ethnic backgrounds. So, however, as it would break both spatial and cultural boundaries, Franklin argued that other theories, most especially in the social sciences field, viewed tourism as something that was shallow, and they diminished the importance of tourism. Those scholars thought that tourism was people that went on tourist activities were people that were trying to look for meaning in their lives, and by doing tourist things, they would be able to find the meaning to their lives, or socials, or the soul searching that they had not done at home. So it's basically like they leave their home and whatever troubles they had to go outside to find meaning, which McConnell scorned on. Franklin also said that these theories also stated that modernity was inorganic and never changing, and so because of that, that's why tourism had to be brought into the mix of the creation of modernity, so that people can find something else to gain knowledge on, apart from the new things that were being brought up in modernity. And Franklin says that this is a misconception. Instead, tourism is one of the founding blocks of modernity, and that it should be celebrated positively. And Franklin also stated that there is no framework for how tourism began. Instead, he bases his foundational he states the foundational model of tourism on nations and states. He said that nations have used tourism as a building block between people, and that is also used to generate financial. Is also used to create financial resources for a country, and that there are international policies set up specifically for tourism. Nation states have used tourism to generate financial resources and international policy. Like, for example, in West Africa, we have what we call the ECOWAS, and in that ECOWAS it's called economic community of West African states. So this is basically all the African states, all the West African states on the African map, and all these people have come together as a coalition, and so this coalition enables free passage of people from country to country without borders, and there is like a unified identity between these countries, and an understanding that its citizens of these countries are free to go into all these countries, either for tourism or for business, and there are no borders to separate each other. Currently, in the attempted definitions of tourism, different scholars have given different definitions of tourism, from Matheson and Wall 1982 to O'Reilly 2000. In this definition, tourism is quantified in terms of economy and is vilified. The social sciences field do not acknowledge the importance of tourism, as scholars in this field view tourism as superficial. McKenna 1976 defined tourism as a deviant activity which emanates from the cultural disturbance of modernization. Under this category, Franklin talks about post-Fordist, discussed about Fordist, which is defined as mass forms of production and consumption to the public. This approach also extended into the tourism industry, and with this, different tourist agencies could like refine